Hello, this is Pretty Guardian, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the magical, the wonderful game Genshin Impact. And so I've been playing a lot of this game recently, and I've just been amazed by it. So today I'm going to kind of do a little bit of a review, but we're just going to have a chat about the game. So the first thing that I need to address in this video is that this game is not a Breath of the Wild clone. That's something I'm seeing all across the internet, and every time I hear it, it just sounds so stupid to me. It sounds like one of those talking points that people who don't really play video games just kind of spit out there. Like the kind of people who pick up games like FIFA or they played Breath of the Wild once, and so their knowledge of video games is just really limited. And so they're throwing this information out there that's really just not true. Or even in the case of like game journalists, a lot of times the things that they say are just so like copy pasted, regurgitated. And so I just wanted to spell that really quick. And so if you're looking at the game at like a cursory level, you might be seeing things like cell shaded graphics. Okay, we've seen cartoony cell shaded graphics before. Off the top of my head, I can think of like everything by level 5 ever. Rogue Galaxy, Ni no Kuni 1, Ni no Kuni 2, even games like Tales of Berseria, and a lot of those Tales titles have a very similar cartoony aesthetic to them. I would say Dragon Quest XI has a similar cartoony aesthetic to it. And then even when you dive kind of deeper into actual gameplay mechanics of the game itself, people will look at things like, oh, well, cooking is really important in Genshin Impact, and you did a lot of cooking in Breath of the Wild. Okay, that's not new. That's in like every game ever too. Even in Elder Scrolls Online, you would cook and you would get your food buffs. Tales of, in all those games, cooking and getting your food buffs is a very critical part of that game. Things like the gliding mechanic, I think Breath of the Wild had gliding in it. Okay, that's not new either. I've been gliding in Arcade for like years at this point. So there's nothing that you would find in Breath of the Wild that is like unique or special as far as that goes. Breath of the Wild is an amazing game, and I can see why some comparisons are drawn just for that reason alone, but they're still very separate games. And so to kind of drive that home, one of the big things about Genshin Impact is the multiplayer features. You are able to join up and explore the world in a party of people online, and that's very core to the Genshin Impact experience. You don't necessarily have to do that, but there's a lot of times where it just really makes the game a lot easier, and I do kind of think that they're going to expand on those features more in the future. Another big thing is that Genshin Impact is free. How crazy is that? You have this great game, beautiful graphics, hours of gameplay, a great storyline, there's voice acting, and just kind of all these things in the game that make it feel fantastic to play, and it's free. It doesn't come with the $60 price tag of a game like Breath of the Wild. And I just think that that's incredible. And there's so many things that give Genshin Impact so much merit that it's really kind of belittling to consistently compare it to a game like Breath of the Wild. Another thing is that if we're really going to talk about games that it copied or games that it's similar to, the developer Miho actually came out with another game prior to this called Honkai Impact. Okay, that is what Genshin Impact seems to be a clone of more than anything. It's very similar in artistic style, even though Honkai Impact has a lot more science fiction elements, whereas this game has a lot more fantasy elements to it. The style, the art style is almost exactly the same. The anime characters, even like animations. I was noticing in some of the gameplay footage of Honkai Impact that I saw, the way the character bounced back onto her feet after being hit by an attack, that's the exact same animation that's in Genshin Impact. And I'm not mad at them for copying. They created this great big game. If they can copy some good animations and still create a whole new title out of it, like good for them. But the whole Breath of the Wild thing is just really outlandish to me. So Genshin Impact is an absolutely beautiful game. The graphics look fantastic. They are in that sort of cartoony, cel-shaded graphics sort of style to them. And I think that it actually works fantastically for this game. It's a very like anime aesthetic. Like if you enjoy a lot of anime games, this will be one that's easy for you to jump in and really enjoy. But I think all those like bright colors and flashy attacks and just kind of the beauty of that aesthetic really works well for a fantasy game. You are going off into this wonderful world that is truly a joy to actually explore. And so when we talk about exploration, that's where things like the gliding mechanics really shine. So you can glide around, but you can also climb. So not only did they give you this big, beautiful world to explore, but they gave you the tools to actually explore it. So you're able to climb up mountains, you're able to glide down mountains, you're able to swim across rivers, and you actually have the ability to explore. And that's something that a lot of games that give you these big open worlds, I think a lot of times they don't do, is they don't give you the tools to explore that world. And they don't necessarily reward you for exploring that world either. In Genshin Impact, I feel like my exploration is constantly being rewarded. You're able to find ingredients and crafting materials, but then you're also able to find like random events that pop up in the world. Or you're able to find puzzles like ancient ruins, and you have to solve the puzzle in order to unlock this ruin or unlock this treasure chest. Or there's just kind of all these mechanics that are hidden within the world that you wouldn't necessarily get to experience very much of if you weren't actually exploring that world. If you were just following the main storyline or doing the things it tells you to do, this game rewards you for playing on your own and playing on your own terms. The party system in the game, I think, is also very interesting. It was something that I didn't think that I was going to like at first, coming from a background of playing like a lot of party-based JRPGs and things like that. The way that they give you like your one character and you run around as your one character, it kind of made me wonder like, okay, what is the purpose of this? And they quickly showed like you're able to very easily switch between characters. And not only are you able to easily do that, but that's like what you need to do in order to nail the fights. So in the battle system, they have different elements, and it's pretty straightforward once you kind of know how stuff works. Like obviously water is going to be good against fire, that sort of thing. But they also created other interactions within those elements. And like there's this like big monster guy and he carries a wooden shield and you have to use fire to burn his shield in order to fight him. And lots of like little interactions like that that actually make switching the characters on the fly really purposeful. And so then you're also able to earn new champions. You get some of them through the storyline itself, and then you get some of them through their gacha mechanics. And that is kind of one of the downsides of this game, is the gacha rates are not very good. But I feel like they also give you a decent enough party of characters to actually like play through, and they give you enough rewards and prima gems, and like that's their premium currency or whatever in the game, that you're able to earn some of those extra characters and still have a very full experience throughout the game. Overall, the gameplay just feels really, really good to me. So when I'm exploring this world, I love the attention to detail that's present in it. Like there'll be leaves kind of flying around from the trees, and there'll be like a little lizard skittering across the ground, and you can run up and catch the lizard real quick, and it actually turns into like a crafting material for you. But what's fun about a lot of those little details, like the fireflies floating around you or the leaves flying by, is that it makes the world feel vibrant and alive. So I'm not just like walking through this map that somebody made. It actually feels like I'm walking through this world that somebody made. And it's a really wonderful feeling. Adding to that immersion, they also did a really good job with the voice acting. The voice acting in this game is excellent. The voice acting is good, and then the story is good. There's a lot of RPGs particularly mobile games, but then a lot of like Arcade and some other maybe not very well done Asian MMORPGs and RPGs where it feels like the localization team was kind of an afterthought. That's not the case in this game. The story made sense, the story was interesting, the voice acting added depth and personality to the characters. It felt like the voice actors actually tried. And not only that, but it felt like they had like a creative team that tried to assign the right voices to the right characters and tried to kind of make it this cohesive experience. And so I feel like they did a really good job with that. I felt very immersed in this vibrant and lovely world that they've made. So I am going to attempt to be a little bit critical of the game here, which is hard to do because it's so good and it's free. Like, how can you be mad at a game that you didn't spend a penny on? I'm not mad, but let's talk about it for a second. So one of the major shortcomings in the game to me is in kind of the areas that they chose to cut corners. So you have this game that's incredibly well done, and then when you have little pieces that don't kind of fit into that correctly, it feels a little bit jarring. So as an example, off the top of my head, there is this scene where you're playing as this witch named Lisa, and there's this other person that really pissed her off and she beats the crap out of him. But rather than show her using like one of her flashy lightning attacks of awesomeness, they just cut the camera and then it flashes over to the character who she was beating up being on the ground in pain or whatever. And there's actually a lot of little moments like that. Like they have this character named Venti and he's a bard, and there's this point in the game where he should have been telling you a story or singing you a song or something like that, and rather than actually play it, they cut away and then they come back to the characters reacting to it. And sometimes that can be used to a good effect in storytelling. We don't necessarily have to see every detail to know how impactful certain things were. But when we're watching this very visual adventure playing out in front of us, sometimes it is kind of jarring, and sometimes it's nice to actually see the things that are supposed to make these characters cool rather than just being told, like, oh yeah, this is why you're doing this. Another thing I would kind of comment on is the length of the dungeons. So multiplayer in this game can be a lot of fun, but when you go into the dungeons, a lot of them only take like a minute to complete. And one of the big benefits of this game is that it's available across multiple platforms. It's on PS4, it's on the PC, it's on Android. So if you're doing this minute-long dungeon on your phone, that makes sense. It's something you can jump into really quick, complete really quick. It's nice and easy. But when you're on like your computer or on a console, you do want that more immersive experience. You want to be able to join up with your friends and actually be challenged by some of the dungeons. So I think having them be a little bit longer, even like 5 to 10 minutes, I think would be really excellent. And then also maybe scaling the difficulty slightly when you're in a party. I think when you have a group of 4 people, you want to feel like your characters are impactful in those fights. So it doesn't have to be significant. And at the same time, maybe saying like, okay, if you have 4 players in this dungeon, we're going to make the monsters give their health a little bit more health so that they can take a little bit more damage, or make them do a little bit more damage. Not a lot, but enough that some of the challenge is still present when you're using your characters. I would say that overall in those dungeons, you still have to be kind of strategic though. The whole elemental system and being able to like solve their puzzles and those sorts of things are still very important there. But it's just the length. The length, I mean, 1 minute, that is so short. Give us at least like 5 to 10 minutes. Come on. There are dungeons in a lot of MMORPGs that you can spend half an hour or more in. And I get it, this isn't an MMORPG. It's really kind of a single player anime JRPG sort of style game that does have some good multiplayer functionality to it. Just give us a little bit more in that regard. Overall, I think it's a fantastic game, beautiful world, really fun and engaging combat, lots of great like crafting and gathering and just world exploring to be had in this. I highly recommend it. And it doesn't even cost you a cent if you don't want to. So you should definitely check it out. And Thank you so much for watching today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe, all those things that YouTubers and other video content creators always tell you to do. It really does matter to us. And once again, I hope you enjoyed today's video. So thank you so much. And until next time, this is Pretty Guardian, logging out.